Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. Welcome to Extra Crispy. For today's video, we got a video about JxmyHighroller titled ranking every current NBA duo from best to worst. So Jimmy, man, is one of those very knowledgeable people in the NBA, basketball community and stuff. So definitely going to respect his opinion and stuff like that. So yeah, as far as like the duos, I think for the most part, I would say this represents all the duos in the NBA. That looks pretty good. I'll say more Kawhi Leonard and Luke Kennard, like Kawhi and Paul George, but it's completely fine, man. Beyond that, looks pretty good. So here we go.
Welcome, High Rollers. Today we are ranking all
maybe Kevin Love
and
and Drummond, or Kevin Love and Sexton.
Best to worst. Now, I'll be using my expert insight and analysis to really get into the finer details of this ranking system.
All right,
and by expert insight and analysis, I mean using my emotions and lack of relevant information to subjectively rank these duos based on how I'm feeling at the moment.
Sounds about accurate.
So with that being said, let's jump right into it.
Wouldn't be a ranking video otherwise.
We have the Nuggets with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. If you told me a year ago that Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic would be a top 5 duo in the NBA by 2021, I would have probably laughed at you because you're a Nuggets fan, but also because I would have never expected these guys to make such a monumental leap in just one season. Jokic is the best center in the NBA.
I would say mainly Jamal.
Sorry, Sixers fans, the truth hurts. And Jamal Murray just took the leap in last season's playoffs, proving that he is the perfect wingman for the Joker. These guys are the real deal.
What do you guys think, man? I mean, Jokic, y'all think it's better than Embiid? I think from like that's my argument, is that consistently Jokic is better, which I think is more important. But from a dominant standpoint, like when Embiid is turned up all the way, he's the best. But it's like, how often does that happen due to injuries and stuff, right?
And for that, we'll put them in the great tier.
I agree with that.
Next, we have the Celtics with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Great.
Jason Tatum is a superstar. His potential is virtually endless at the moment. And Jaylen Brown has completely blossomed into this borderline star, but his progression has been super sneaky since he's been in Jason Tatum's shadow. A super sneaky star and a legit superstar.
I would say great.
They belong in the great tier. Next, we have the Bulls with Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen.
Average.
Young, dynamic, injury prone. Zach LaVine really showed his star potential last season. He's unquestionably the leader of this Bulls team. And although Markkanen is
not according to ESPN ranking, freaking disrespect him so much, damn. Like I'm sick of the Zach LaVine disrespect out there. Like, he's a great player.
A solid player after taking steps back last season. I think it's fair to put them in the at least you tried tier.
Really?
Not a big fan of this.
See, I disagree with that. I mean, the biggest issue is like, yes, Lauri does have injury issues from last year, but I still think the worst part about that duo was Jim Boylen. I feel like Jim Boylen was everything wrong with that duo last season. I'm excited to see what they do this year.
Duo right now. But I am a big fan of today's
we got sponsorship. Okay, let's skip ahead right here, guys. Here we go.
Okay. There's no question that they are the most skilled duo in the NBA, but we have yet to see if their individual dominance can translate to a cohesive 1-2 punch. So I'm a bit indifferent about them at the moment. Why do I get this feeling that the Nets will either make the finals or they'll implode halfway through the season and decay into
That's how I kind of feel.
Like literally no in between. Those are the only two possible outcomes. I know we haven't seen them play together yet, but anything less than great would be tragic.
With the potential to be goated.
With Trae Young and John Collins. So with the Hawks, you could easily pair Gallinari with Trae as their best duo, but since they haven't actually played with each other yet, I chose John Collins.
He's also coming off the bench, I think.
He's really going to surprise some people this year. Last season, they only played about half the season together, so of course their record doesn't actually reflect their ability to play together, but both of these dudes are young and have a game suited for where the league is heading. So for now, they're average. Next, we have the Hornets with Devontae Graham and Gordon Hayward.
Oh, it's
LaMelo.
LaMelo.
I was tempted to put LaMelo as one of the players in Charlotte's duo, but in an effort to not be unbelievably disrespectful, I'm going to hold off on that. Both Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier were the only silver lining in an underwhelming Hornets team last season.
PJ was nice.
We'll hopefully see a healthy Gordon Hayward with the team. I don't think it's a stretch to say that he'll step in as one of the best players on the team.
I like PJ Washington.
Oddly enough, even this is probably the best duo Charlotte's had in years, and somehow it still falls short of average.
What about Zeller and Bismack?
Really messed up. I mean, no harm. It's just my take on the situation. They've got a case of the at least you tried. Next, we have the Cavaliers with Colin Sexton and Andre Drummond. Not much to say here. Sexton is another up-and-coming player that has shown promise, but unfortunately, he plays for the Cavaliers.
What's wrong with that?
So
they have LeBron.
Yeah. And Drummond, well, There's just something about Drummond that just doesn't get it done for me. I don't know why. Dude puts up awesome numbers year after year, but it never seems to translate to any success for his team. So unfortunately,
well, that's the issue, is that we've only ever really seen Drummond as on a team as number 1 or number 2 option. Drummond needs to be Drummond on a championship team is a 3rd option. Like, can you imagine if he was on like the Clippers or whatever? If he was the 3rd option on that team, it'd be amazing. Or even like the Boston Celtics, a team like that. It'd be fantastic. But yeah, he's still being treated like number 1, number 2.
They will fall in the disappointed face using a colon and a / tier. Super catchy title, right? I know. Next, we have the Mavericks with Luka Doncic and Kristaps.
I'm saying good because of
the latest edition of Mark Cuban's fetish for foreign players, Luka and Porzingis, the dynamic duo of the future. It's kind of looking that way. Luka is on pace to being one of the greatest players of all time, and a healthy Porzingis is an absolute menace. Honestly,
that's the issue, is the healthiness for really for both of them at this point, but I would say Kristaps mostly. That's why I gotta say good. It's because like it's a great potentially go-to duo, but if Kristaps only playing 40 games out of the year.
One of the more underrated duos in the NBA right now, and although they haven't accomplished a lot yet, I'm gonna put them in the great tier.
Really?
Next, we have the Pistons with Blake Griffin and LiAngelo Ball. Could you imagine?
Yo, I could have swore that was Derrick Rose. Oh, I can imagine, man. That was nice. That was a good joke. Wow. I'm using that one for April Fools.
No. Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose, the tale of 2 ungodly athletic players from the last decade who have gracefully adjusted their game after a laundry list of injuries. 8 years ago, this duo would be enough to contend for a title.
Yep.
But it's not 2012. And as much as I'm rooting for these two, there's just too much young talent in the league right now for them to really make a meaningful impact. But at least they tried.
I disagree with that take right there, man. I disagree with that take. Last year, Derrick Rose had one of his best years of his entire NBA career. The year before, Blake Griffin had essentially the best year of his entire NBA career. I will give you this. If they're both get injured at some point, or Blake Griffin's not the same player, then sure. It's at least you tried, because you try to combine these 2 good players together. But if they are both healthy and both play at the top of that level, Blake Griffin goes back to that all-star form with D-Rose, how he played last season, it's at least, to me, an average duo. It at least is average. It's just, we're writing off Blake Griffin because of the injuries from last year, but he's had injuries in the past and came back and bounced back the next season. I still think it's possible. Like I said, that's not just me being biased out there. That's 100% facts if you ask me. So I got to see this next season first. We've never really seen those 2 guys play together at full health. We have not seen it yet, so we'll see.
Next, we got the Warriors with Stephen Curry and Andrew Wiggins. I really wanted to add Kelly Oubre with Steph. I really feel like he's going to make the leap this season.
What about Draymond?
I just put Andrew Wiggins. I don't know. He's there. What are you going to do about it? So if Steph Curry is, Steph Curry, then Andrew Wiggins is the anti-Steph Curry. I'd like to explain why that is, but in an effort to not waste time, I'll just let you ponder over that contrast. Curry is still the best point guard in the NBA, and Andrew Wiggins could possibly complement his game with his ability to create his own shot and space.
I like Lillard too, by the way.
I also can't imagine Curry not elevating Wiggins' game as well, so they land in the good tier. Next, we've got the Rockets with James Harden and John Wall.
Average.
So I'd like to go into detail on why I think this duo has a shot at being extremely productive and cohesive, but due to his addiction with strip clubs, Harden probably won't be with the Rockets for much longer, and it's a shame. John Wall, or at least what we last saw of him, is the perfect point guard for a player like Harden. Sure, Wall doesn't have much of an outside shot, but as a backcourt, they've got size.
Yo, put him in Toronto. I heard strip clubs are illegal there.
And create offense for their team. And if John Wall is even half the defensive player he was before his injuries,
or
the
OKC,
Rockets will have a great perimeter defensive presence.
Y'all go like
to
Denny's
offset Harden's
for fun,
lack of defense.
I heard.
But there are just far too many contingencies on this duo to merit a great tier ranking, so they fall in the good tier. Next, we've got the Pacers with DeMontis Sabonis and TJ Warren. This is another one of those duos where I wasn't really sure who to put. Sabonis is definitely the best player on the Pacers, but you could either add TJ Warren, a healthy Victor Oladipo, or Malcolm Brogdon as the second of the pair. But for now, I put TJ Warren.
Healthy Depot is number 1.
Sabonis might just be the most underrated player in the entire league right now. He's an absolute unit down low. I know the Pacers don't get a lot of nationally televised games, but when you guys get the time, watch this man Sabonis ball. One of the last true big men in the NBA. And TJ Warren just reincarnated prime Michael Jordan for 2 weeks in the bubble, so
until he met Jimmy Butler,
has an opportunity to capitalize in the East. But we'll have to see how things unfold for this duo, and in the meantime, they warrant an average tier rating. Next, we have the Clippers with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. So after their lackluster play in the playoffs last season, I really don't know where to rank Kawhi and PG. On paper, this duo honestly
great.
looks like the perfect 1-2 punch, but here in reality, they got drop kicked out of the playoffs by a younger, more versatile duo in Denver. I'm not sure if this duo's performance in the playoffs was just a fluke or what. Kawhi is still a top 5 player in the league.
I would say good for right now.
Paul George is, well, at this point, I don't really know. For now, I want to put them in the good tier, but
Paul George is a great player. I mean, we all just kind of look at the recency-ness of him, in the bubble and stuff, which, in all due respect, that should go, that should be a strike against him. But looking at an entire NBA season, no load management, this team hopefully coming together now via chemistry and stuff, I still think Paul George is a great player. Now we're damn Supermax,
they're still great.
Yep.
Next, we have the Lakers with LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
Slashy
Not
face.
much to say here.
Slashy face.
Last season, they were headlined as the best duo in the NBA, and both AD and LeBron backed up the hype by delivering a championship in their first season together. Expect more of their dominance this season. They're absolutely goated. Next up, we have the Grizzlies with Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr.
Good duo, potentially great.
The Grizzlies, I was really tempted to pick Ja Morant with Jonas Valanciunas, but because of their incredible upside as a duo going into the season, I really like the potential of Ja Morant with Jaren Jackson Jr. Both
I agree with that.
21 years old and already showing signs of being the future to this franchise. But relative to some of these other duos, they still have work to do, so we'll put them in the average tier. Next up, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo with the Heat. After a finals appearance last season, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo both proved their star status and earned a title as one of the league's premier duos. Jimmy and Bam are pretty much what we thought Kawhi and PG would be. They check off every box and are honestly a great example of players whose numbers don't reflect their true value. I really want to put them in the GOATed tier, but considering they're the watered down version of LeBron and AD, they will go in the great tier. Next, we've got
it's
the
not
Bucks
totally
with
a lie.
Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton.
Great duo.
So here's a riddle for you guys. What do you get when you have a back-to-back MVP and a Defensive Player of the Year paired with an All-Star? Any guesses? You get a second-round exit. It's hard to really get an idea of just how good the Giannis Middleton duo is since they've spent the last 2 seasons.
But I will say, if you want to look at failures in playoffs and stuff, it's sure, but. Well, for one, Giannis was injured. I mean, I'm not still saying they wouldn't beat the Heat, but regardless, Middleton is, in my opinion, the perfect second option to Giannis. I love him as that number 2. I love it. I think it's a great duo.
Literally racking up the most wins in the NBA, but then turn around and lose in the playoffs in ugly fashion. But they're both in their primes and have the talent to still make multiple deep playoff runs. So off to the good tier they go. Next, we have the Timberwolves with Karl.
But that's the thing. It's efficiency-wise, Middleton is fantastic. So it's how are you going to have... I mean, how many championships you see in this great category? Kyrie and KD, that's great. But beyond that, I don't see it championships. I mean, sure, maybe you want to say the youth, but it's not like Giannis is old. I would have to say this is still a great. I still think this is a great duo right here. It's a great duo if you ask me.
And D'Angelo Russell.
Just saying.
Now that D'Angelo Russell is playing in Minnesota, where great players go to watch their careers dwindle away, I'm excited, but also completely unsure of how he'll pair up with Karl Anthony Towns. Sure, their production will be through the roof, and in terms of talent, this duo ranks among the very best. But if last season showed us anything, it's that talent alone doesn't win games, or at least games that matter. Talented, but as a duo, average.
Ooh, wow.
Next, we've got the Pelicans.
I would say good category.
Ingram and Zion Williamson. Leading the Pelicans, the Brandon Ingram-Zion Williamson duo will more than likely surprise a lot of fans on how good they'll be this season. If Zion can stay healthy, and with the way Brandon Ingram is taking leaps and bounds to star-level ability, this duo isn't up to par with the best in the NBA, but in terms of young duos, they're one of the best pairs in the league. Now we just have to see them on the court simultaneously for more than 15 minutes at a time. Average.
Hey. Why you gotta show RJ? Why you gotta show RJ?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Next,
Put Mitchell Robinson.
With Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Al
or Obi.
Horford. So due to Sam Presti trading anything and everything the Thunder had going for them in exchange for 32,000 draft picks,
I would say
don't even
Dort and
know
Shai.
who the duo in OKC is. Obviously Shai, who will probably end up snagging most improved player next season since he'll have to carry this team if they want to find any success. But I guess you could say SGA and Al Horford is their best duo.
I would say
in which
Dort.
case this duo is underwhelming. And let's all just pray that those picks materialize into actual players that will lead this franchise into the next chapter.
At least one has to.
At least they tried. Next, the Magic with Nikola Vucevic and Evan Fournier.
Average.
So I've always believed that just like a lot of things in life, the NBA is a story of the haves and the have-nots. I'm sure you can all assume which category the Magic fall into. which is crazy considering they just made the playoffs last season. But for most of the mid-level and even low-level teams in the NBA, there's some sort of movement going on, whether it's rebuilding or new hirings, anything that just shows growth. In the Magic's case, I don't know if they're growing right now. And although I think Vucevic and Fournier are good players, I'm not sure if I could conjure up a less interesting duo in the NBA at the moment. Strictly because they led their team to the playoffs, I will grant them an average tier ranking.
Okay.
Next, the 76ers. Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. The duo you could have sworn would have accomplished something by now, but hasn't. Two top 20 players in the NBA who at any moment can look like the second coming of Shaq and Penny, or just two talented players that just can't seem to put it all together. When they're both healthy, which is already a stretch of a statement, Simmons and Embiid are lethal. So I'm reluctant to do it, but they're great.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's my thing. It's like, I do think they are great players. I don't know if they're a great duo. I think they're a good duo. Like, they work fine together, not the best. But as far as them like playing together, there is better options for both of them. There's a better player out there for Ben Simmons to play with than Joel Embiid, and there's a better player out there for Joel Embiid to play with than Ben Simmons. Which is why I have them in the good category. But okay.
Next,
I'm not like mad about it.
Devin Booker and Chris Paul. I'm tempted to put DeAndre Ayton with Booker as the duo in Phoenix, but with the arrival of Chris Paul, I'm going to take a wild guess.
It's going to be a great duo.
The majority of the Suns' production will come from these two creating on offense, and with Booker only getting better and CP3 discovering the fountain of youth, these two are going to mix things up in the West. Chris is the perfect player to complement Booker's game, so this could be a great example of the whole being greater than the sum of the parts, but until we see their chemistry on display, they fall into the good tier. Next, the Trailblazers with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. I'm going to be honest, brothers. How many times are we going to see this duo coming into the season before we realize this just ain't it? If Booker...
I agree with that statement. I've said it many times before. Damian and CJ are both great players. The issue is that CJ plays too similar to Damian, where it's like, so just like what he does on the court isn't as respected much because Damian already doing that at a higher elevated level. And that's why I want to see CJ get traded, just because I feel like CJ could be great on a different team, and then Damian, you can get like another like all-star caliber player that has a different skill set that would kind of mesh nicely with Damian.
And CP3 are an example of the whole being greater than the sum, then Lillard and McCollum are on the opposite end of the spectrum. Dame has been a superstar for about a half a decade now, and CJ is one of the best scoring weapons in the NBA, and yet when you really boil it down, in big playoff moments, it just becomes the Lillard show, which might be the most entertaining show in all of basketball. But their team's success falls solely on Dame, which makes you reconsider CJ's impact when it matters most.
Sure.
This tandem is good. Next, we have the Kings with De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield. Good, not great. Solid,
average,
but nothing to really get you excited. Unless you're a Kings fan, in which case I offer you my condolences. Fox may just make the leap this season, and Buddy has really progressed over the last couple years, but when a duo like Lillard and McCollum is only good for the 8th seed in the playoffs, you have to be realistic about the ceiling of this backcourt duo. So we'll put Fox and old Buddy in the average tier. Next, we've got the Spurs with DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge. The Spurs, unquestionably the most boring organization in the NBA since Tim Duncan retired and Kawhi did the dash on him. With their best duo made up of DeRozan and Aldridge, I can't help but to see the resemblance these two share with the franchise over the last few years. Good, productive, solid. That's it. That's the extent of my evaluation. Average. Next, the Raptors with Pascal Siakam and Kyle Lowry.
Bro, I can't handle the Blake Griffin, Derrick Rose hate.
They tried to fill the Kawhi Leonard-sized hole in Toronto, and although they were unsuccessful, I'm glad to see that NBA fans are now realizing how valuable Lowry is. And Siakam will hopefully learn from his experience as the guy on a championship contending team. Siakam and Lowry are a good duo with a pair of rings. Next, we have the Jazz with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Although the Jazz were bounced out of the playoffs in heart-wrenching fashion, last season Donovan Mitchell proved to be one of the league's most elite offensive players, and he played huge in huge moments. Combine that with Rudy
think it's a great duo,
which is centered around being one of the league's most elite defensive players, and the duo in Salt Lake City is one of the best in the NBA.
Yep.
So good for them. Literally. And last but not least, we got the boys out in DC. Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. One of the most talented...
I think this is going to be one of the most underrated duos. I got a feeling this is going to click. I think the Washington Wizards are going to the playoffs, man. I really think this is going to click.
To duos in the NBA.
We'll see, though.
Acquiring Westbrook has granted Washington a one-way ticket to the playoffs. That I'm certain of. And in terms of production and entertainment value, I think this duo might just top the charts. Now, I could be wrong. But can someone explain to me how, if the Westbrook-Harden experiment didn't work, why anyone would think the Westbrook-Beal experiment would?
Because I feel like the way they play. I feel like Bradley Beal can play much better off ball and unselfishly. Like, I feel like Beal would be cool with Russell Westbrook taking over at times. I never really felt like James Harden was cool with it. So, not to mention the combination of the players around them. I was never a big fan of the small ball. I feel like going back to more traditional style of basketball will be nice for Russell Westbrook and the Washington Wizards. We know he has the capabilities to take over after triple-double. I feel like Thomas Bryant, Maurice Wagner will play nicely off Russell. Rui Hachimura is going to be, improved. Denny, who knows what he could be. I think there's a lot of things to be excited about if you're a Washington Wizards fan next season.
As unbelievably electric as this duo will be, it's a shame they'll get bounced in the second round of the playoffs this season.
Okay, yeah.
Just good enough.
That's fine.
To be good enough.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
So there you have it. All 30 NBA duos from each team and how they stack up according to me. But that wraps up this video.
All right, guys, that's all we got, man. So, yeah, you guys know my opinions on it, so I won't really repeat myself. But as far as the at least you tried, just going to say real quick here, I feel like Zach LaVine, Laurie, going to bounce back strongly for the Bulls next season. Pistons, hope you all can stay healthy, guys. That's all we got. Thank you all for watching, and peace out, my friends.